I'm glad to be part of the AEC World Expo online for the theme offices. Of the hours that we spend awake, most of the time is spent in the workspace. Most developers and clients, when they come to us, spend hardly any time on the actual requirements of what goes into a workspace. Considering that most of the waking hours of most of us today who are educated are spent in these workspaces, we spend every day of our lives in the workspace, and most of the time we spend at home is sleeping or eating. In spite of this, very little thought is given at the requirement stage itself for these office spaces that are being constructed all over the country right now and all over the world. In India, in the last 10 years, there has been more office space constructed than there was in the preceding 50 years before that. And in spite of this, what we see around us largely is rectilinear boxes clad in aluminium and glass in varying combinations, with almost no thought given to the actual quality of space in the internal spaces. Most of the office spaces being built are large floor plates of 20,000 to 40,000 square feet at a floor. By virtue of these floor plates being so large, the natural light that comes into the office is only on the peripheries and it does not ever reach the center of the office spaces. The ceiling heights are low. When you walk into a space which is 20,000 square feet at one stretch with a ceiling height of even 12 feet or 13 feet, that 12 or 13 feet, because of the size of the floor space, appears much smaller. It feels like you're walking into a space which has only 8 feet height. Most of these office spaces don't have a terrace, don't have any open space. And the need for today is to create office spaces that have a natural feel, that have a distinct character. Today, if you walk into an office space of one BPO and few hours later walk into another BPO or another software office or even a consulting firm, most office spaces look the same. Most have similar image of workstations. Most have similar layouts of cabins. There is no character, no defining character to any of these workspaces which identifies that workspace as being something different. Moreover, inside an office where there are people working in numbers from 50 to 400 in a single office, most spaces within the office look the same. As a result of which, if you're walking down one corridor or you're walking down another corridor, all floor spaces start looking very similar, and you have nothing to identify your own workspace as being a little different from that of your colleagues. So it is very important to give character to a workspace, to create a natural feeling, to let in abundant natural light, and create a quality of space, because this is the space where we are spending most of our days. In a building that we've done in Dubai called Synergy, it's part of a large business development area called the Business Bay, where there are a number of office buildings coming of varying heights on varying roads, on various roads of this project. Here, the office buildings on this particular street where we had to plan this office are placed side by side, overlooking a huge lake at the back and a very wide road in the front. Because the adjacent buildings are going to be very close by on two sides, we have made the entire building with a double skin. Internally there is glass, and externally to the glass there is a perforated concrete skin. This is an Islamic motif which was used in traditional architecture many years ago in the Middle East. But we've used this motif in a contemporary way, where at random there is punctuation, and this punctuation happens throughout the skin of the building. What it does is two things. It gives privacy to the office spaces from the adjacent buildings that are going to come up on either side. At the same time, it creates a secondary skin which allows a huge amount of cooling to the internal spaces, because temperatures in Dubai reach up to 40 degrees in the summers. Towards the main road and towards the lake, we've created terrace spaces which are usable by each office space. So every office space has some amount of outdoor space because the winter months are very good and these terrace spaces can be utilized for that. In another project called Stacks in Gurgaon, Delhi, we have designed the entire office building as a stack of books where every floor has its own identity and the whole building shifts. Every floor shifts, so some of them shift back in and then they start moving back out, with the result that every single office floor opens on to a terrace which is almost across its entire length. The building mass was very large. We felt it was very large, although there are a lot of buildings in the same area which are much larger than this and are complete rectangular blocks. We felt that even after creating these terraces, we still need to have further breakout spaces within this office building, because of which we punctuated the entire building on the sides with two large 3-floor high complete sky gardens which happen in the middle of the building. These are spaces where the office people can walk out for a break at any time of the day. The building, when you see it from the side, is going up vertically, and this is the point where you enter the building through an 8-level high atrium. And as the building moves up and out from this atrium, the floors start shifting in their axis towards the front, and they move out and in, creating these terraces at every level. Like most software firms, Infosys also used to make very large floor plate buildings. Most of their buildings are software buildings over 100 to 150,000 square feet, designed in ground plus 2 or ground plus 3 levels. And with the result, their requirement was that of making a 150,000 square feet building. And most of their existing buildings on this particular site in Mysore also were complete rectilinear blocks. When we were given an opportunity to design a software building for them, we knew that we could not go higher than 3 floors. We also knew that we had to provide a large floor plate of 40,000 square feet at a floor. Now, how does one make this interesting? What we did was split up the entire floor plate into smaller blocks, 4 of them, and each one twists in plan, so that at no point when you're walking through the entire office do you feel the length of 400 feet, which makes the entire office space look monotonous. So here, at a time, you see a length of only 70 or 80 feet, after which your vision turns. At each point where the angle, the axis of the floor space turns in plan, we provided large outdoor deck spaces where you can actually look out towards the outside before moving to the next part or the next department. So this has created an office space which is still large, but it has a lot more natural light than doing a simple rectilinear box. It also avoids monotony completely because every part of the office is a little different, and every part of the office gets a different view of the outside gardens. In Silver Metropolis, which is a building located on the Bombay Western Express Highway at Jogeshwari, we've created a 200,000 square feet building with 20,000 square feet floor plates at each level. Now this 20,000 square feet floor plate is linear, and we've kept the width such that natural light from both sides of the building can reach every part of the internal office space. There is a flyover that fronts this building, and for this reason we've taken elevated parking levels rather than taking basements, so this allows the entire office spaces to be elevated above the flyover level. Now each office in this building has an open outdoor terrace space. The building is entered through a 50 feet high atrium space. We had to design a very small corporate